New York is famous for this, kind of always on attitude and mode. That's one of the things I love about it. Right now it's been a pretty overcast day. Look at that. People are gonna love that. And it's not the best weather, but I have to say this kind of autumn weather reminds me of the start of school, being a kid, and this time of evening, be riding bikes in autumn with my friends. And people who tell me, just leave New York, it's easier said than done. I grew up here, and even the weather reminds me of, this is home. It's difficult to leave. All right, we're live. That's cool. Got a bunch of things to talk about. I'm actually back at the post office. People liked it the last time I was in the post office, so thought maybe we could come and check it out again. The last time I was in here, the postal police themselves weren't wearing masks, so I wonder what people will say. But one of the things that's cool about this post office is that you can get things mailed real quick. There's a box over here somewhere. You can just drop a letter in. Where is it? Maybe they moved it down here. Yeah, they're kind of closed off. I had to go down here last time. But they seem to collect them. Stuff can get places pretty quick, particularly within New York City. If you drop it here before the last collection, boy, they really closed everything off. Yeah, I guess they put it down here. But there's a lot to talk about today. I don't know if people realize Andrew Cuomo has released a book. He's on a book tour or something. Okay, we can deposit letters here. So that'll go out. But there's a lot to talk about with Andrew Cuomo. Biggest jerk in all of New York. People enjoyed seeing the post office last time. And then also, there's some strange stuff in here, perhaps worth evaluating. People will know more about that than I do. But we're going to go on a little bit of a walk right now. A lot going on today. We've got Amy Coney Barrett hanging out with Senate people, trying to get confirmed. I'm sure everybody saw that. We're going to have a great episode of More Pain later tonight. I've been getting so many people sending me this Benghazi whistleblower, Benghazi bombshell video. And I watched that. We'll talk about it with Mike on More Pain. That's going to be 8 o'clock tonight. The sponsor exclusive show on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. People who are sponsors of True Pundit on Patreon and Subscribestar can also see that. We're going to talk all about the information that Mike brought forward about Osama bin Laden being in Iran. Everybody's acting like this is some bombshell and that there were all kinds of Benghazi. Anyway, we'll talk about it on Mike's show. I wanted to talk about some other stuff that's going on, show people the city. It looks like that place Local, which has some outdoor, it's got like a roof deck going on over there. Looks like there's some people up there drinking. Nice sunlight hitting the Empire State Building. Gotta love the Empire State Building. But yeah, I was watching Andrew Cuomo on CBS. Now, I can never remember if the president of television's father was working for CBS or ABC or NBC. I think he's worked for each of those, definitely NBC. Hard to say. People who aren't familiar with the president of television, he's a guy who is trying to sue me. Well, he's succeeded, I think. They're suing me. And the reason I was thinking about that is because Andrew Cuomo has written this book. I don't want to advertise it, but I want people to know about it. It's so ridiculous. It's called American Crisis Leadership Lessons. Who is this guy giving leadership lessons to? There's more people who've died from COVID-19 in New York City than in all of China. What is he leading people to slaughter? I mean, perhaps if he wrote a book about, nipple clamps on men in their 60s, that's a topic maybe he knows something about. But who is this guy leading? He's an absolute moron. And, why anybody is listening to him. This interview he had on CBS News with Gayle King, who is herself ridiculous, was just such a puff piece, it's unbelievable. Now, that's the Port Authority police following the ambulance there. There's all kinds of different police in New York City. Unfortunately, none of them seem to be doing anything when you get assaulted or stalked or have, mostly peaceful protesters become slightly unpeaceful and try and break your equipment. So we're getting into a little bit of a sketchy part of town over here, and that's obviously not my goal. But there have been so many businesses closing. I don't understand how Andrew Cuomo has time to write a book, why somebody who's supposed to be the governor is allowed to write a book and engage in commercial activities on the news while businesses around continue to close. We're on 8th Avenue right now. That building right there across the street is where 21st Century 3D existed for 13 years, 12 and a half years, something like that. That closing had nothing to do with coronavirus, but the point is there's a lot of businesses closing. As I was walking to the post office up 8th Avenue here, I noticed a lot of things. First of all, there was a gym where people were standing in line. Listen to this. Is the line because only a certain number of people are allowed in at a time? Wow, these people are going to be waiting here a long time. And then you got to wear a mask when you're working out? You wear a mask while you're working out? Wow. Okay, so there's that. People waiting in line to wear a mask. The Weed World truck, they keep expanding. This is like the biggest truck I've ever seen. Oh, and they've got the timeline of Weed World. So weed is not legal in New York City. So I've said that many times, but it's amazing that they're allowed to operate. Andrew Cuomo did some sort of study about legalizing marijuana. I don't think he's qualified to do anything other than making bad podcasts and stupid jokes with his brother. So there's all those people waiting outside the gym. I mean, I don't know. Seems real bad. Of course, U-Hauls have become as prevalent in New York City as taxis. These are all just short clips that I recorded on my way over here. Retail space for lease. This was a big drugstore around the corner from where I live. Giant Walgreens, 322 8th Avenue. That's kind of interesting, right? So, and then you can see that was a Walgreens, totally closed. Increasing number of homeless people on the street. Danger sign next to that guy. So Andrew Cuomo, he's got time to write a book while the city crumbles, and he's out there promoting his book. Nobody should buy that book. Why is he not being investigated criminally? Cohen's Optical closed. Okay? So a lot of people were sending me this news article that the Roosevelt Hotel closed. I don't really know the Roosevelt Hotel very well. Charles told me that was a coffee spot for him for a while. It's been there 96 years. And now it's closing because nobody's staying at hotels. Well, unless Andrew Cuomo makes some kind of deal to send money to people who he knows who own hotels. Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they figure out which hotels were about to close and use the government money to house people who lose their jobs or already have no jobs, and kind of a win-win? It doesn't seem to work out that way. Andrew Cuomo is just interested in writing books to help himself get money. The Carpenters Union, the Electricians Union at the Javits Center got money. Oh yeah, this was something else I wanted to see. There's still construction going on. This is bizarre. I mean, just a coincidence, of course, but check the address here. I think it was 300 West 30th Street? It's a coincidence, I know. but I like to point out these coincidences. The Emmys have accused me of being a conspiracy theorist in their lawsuit. Okay. I have retained an attorney who's going to defend me in that lawsuit, and the first defense was entered today. People can still go over to crowdsourcethetruth.com and you can check out the live streams. I forgot to put this one in there for today, but I'll make sure the Mike Moore one is in there. People can still support the Counter Lawfare Fund. I really appreciate the people who have done that already. You're going to get a gift subscription, a 1-year subscription to Subscribestar, and you can send that to family members or friends. You can get a couple different subscriptions. So if there's people who you want to show Crowdsource the Truth videos to, that's a good way to do it. You can also use paypal.me/crowdsourcethetruth. Help keep this New York business from shuttering. Something Andrew Cuomo doesn't care about. This hotel is on 45th Street, so we're going to just check it out. I also heard some really bad news that I heard from Charles. I don't know if I guess it's been reported elsewhere, but the Oyster Bar in Grand Central Station has closed, and that was a really famous restaurant. I mean, look at this. Here's another Weed World truck. How can a business that sells something illegal, if they're being honest, and there have been multiple reports that what they're selling is actually fake, how can it stay in business? Yes, weed deliver. I don't know. I mean, I am all for the legalization of marijuana. I think if cigarettes and booze are going to be legal, it should be legal. There's another moving truck. But I don't understand. I mean, it's a serious question. How is an entire company able to exist selling a product that is illegal? Okay, so this thing, I got to head further east, actually. Because we want to walk through Times Square a bit. So this is kind of oh look, fake New York Times. They got their lobby all marked up with where you can stand. I hope people will watch that idiot Cuomo on CBS. It was earlier today with Gayle King and some guy I didn't recognize, where he is just propagandizing everybody. Global asset management, Western asset, a lot of asset management going on in there. Is it an LS7 Camaro? Is that do I have that right? Some people enjoy my car spotting. There's a lot of different people who watch the show, and it sounds like something's going on with that Camaro. That's wild. Where is that guy going? It's 8th Avenue. Little windy. Sorry if that's creating a disturbance. But here's an Apple Music ad. Earlier today, Apple released their new iPhone, which I know people are going to be interested in because it has 5G technology in it. One of the things they were boasting about is that it's got the most 5G bands of any device. And it's using millimeter wave technology. Look, this is totally empty. This is a huge, what was this? Times Square, I forget what this was, 11 Times Square, empty. I haven't been sharing that much information about this. I've been talking with Charles about it, but every day I'm seeing different articles being posted by like Variety and The Hollywood Reporter about how AMC and Regal, you know, how many days left they have of cash. There was even a statement that said that the global movie business is in the hands of Andrew Cuomo because he's got, yeah, see it says right there, 48 states, let's zoom in on that. It says 48 states have reopened theaters safely. Why not New York, Governor Cuomo, reopen our cinemas? So they're saying that, you know, because of that, because New York is not open, and I guess I didn't realize this, but New York City is such a big market for movie theater going, or at least this is the story, that it's delayed certain films like James Bond, No Time to Die, and there's a Batman movie being made now where somebody got coronavirus and they delayed it, so then they delayed the Batman movie. And I think they're making Avatar 2 and 3. A friend of mine in Australia who we helped build an underwater stereoscopic beam splitter, provided the base design for that. He worked on the film. Some Times Square residents walking around. But I mean, this is an absolute bloodbath around here. All over New York City, businesses closing. And I mean, I feel like I'm a little bit of a broken record saying the same thing every day. But I've recently begun to think about what happens when we cross this threshold that you never would have thought about, but we have to be approaching this metric of, 50% of New York City businesses being closed. It is some percent right now. I'd say it's more than 10. It could be less than 50. See, this guy didn't want to wear the mask in the gym, so he's doing his workout right here on the sidewalk. But all these places are closed, and they rely on tourism, which I have been getting an incredible number of emails from airlines suggesting that I fly somewhere, which I'm just not interested in doing. There's so much contradictory information coming out on the news. There was something they said in that dopey CBS broadcast with Cuomo that I wanted to tell everybody. I also want to remind people, I'm going to head into this other area of Times Square where I have had some radio interference in the past. Now that I've restored live streaming on the Jason Goodman channel, there's no mandatory upload after the live stream. So if the live stream's ever cut when I'm walking around, I'm going to make them available after I'm done, because I keep recording even when the radio interference shuts them off. But people can watch what I call the director's cuts on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. There are times that, people will get into the comments and they'll say that they don't like it that I put information on Patreon or Subscribestar, because shouldn't the information be free for everybody? Well, of course I want everybody to hear this information, but nothing that I, need to live is free, like food and living expenses and all that. So I need to have a job, and this is it. And if I had no way of making money, there would be no show. So, if you see those comments, I mention this because I don't want people to be persuaded by that. I think it's more social engineering. There's a lot of social engineering going on, particularly from Andrew Cuomo going on CBS. And, he makes these little offhanded comments like, we're still debating if you should be wearing masks. Like, for him, it's a foregone conclusion that you should be wearing a mask, even though we haven't seen, he talks about relying on science, but where is the science that says that wearing that mask prevents you or anyone from getting sick? And how is it consistent with the science of anything else that we do? I've spoken about it before. I was talking to Alex Jones about this. Everybody's driving around in these cars, spitting out carbon monoxide and other dangerous chemicals and pollutants, but they're not told to stop doing that or put something on their car to, save up all the... Here's the idea. If we want to go by this mask mandate, every car should be modified so that the CO2 or the CO, the carbon monoxide exhaust, instead of shooting out into the air here in Times Square that I'm trying to breathe, it should be piped right into your own car. Like a mask. Your exhaust goes right back into your lungs, and you are breathing what God, the universe, evolution, whatever put us here, intended for you to spit out and never inhale again. I appreciate the people that are walking around without the mask. The funniest people are those who have the mask people can discern what's going on there. Point of the matter is, he's got this foregone conclusion that the masks are going to help you, and I haven't seen the study that shows that. I don't believe that it's necessarily correct, and we want to make our decisions based on science. Cuomo's going to write books about leadership. I really hope that people will watch that. He says so many things where he's like, oh, I don't want to politicize this. I don't want to point fingers. Isn't he the guy who was blaming Trump? When they asked him about the nursing homes, that's when he didn't want to point fingers. When he's talking about Trump, then 200,000 people died because of Trump. But today he didn't want to point fingers when somebody asked him about all the people dying in the nursing homes. He's like, hey, we learned a lot. I don't know. I think maybe some of the people that John Cullen was pointing out during the Crony Awards episode, some of the countries where we have, less than 100 people dead, and they have, far larger populations than New York City, maybe those guys should write books about leadership. It is really amazing how high resolution these signs have become. I don't know if it's going to come through in the video here, but it's just so sharp. It's unbelievable. So McDonald's is open, but that place, Bowtie, that used to be a movie company, Bowtie Cinemas, but I don't think that was a movie theater there. That's available. That's for rent. I'm curious to know how much space in New York City is available for rent. I mean, the city is in such a dire emergency. It's on its way to becoming a derelict city. What will happen then? I just saw a podcast yesterday. I'm going to try and get in touch with this guy, a friend of mine from college who I've been periodically in touch with. Hey, I didn't realize Adobe was there. A friend of mine from college who I've been periodically in touch with is a Broadway actor. He sings and dances and all that stuff. I know him from NYU. And I've seen him actually in Broadway shows, not for a while. He was apparently in Beetlejuice. And he was being interviewed on a podcast yesterday about, this is the guy's job. And Broadway is closed until when? Next summer? A year, something like that? And who knows if it's going to open then. This guy's got kids. He's got a wife. I mean, that's another one of those careers where what do you start doing now if you've been a Broadway actor your whole entire life? A lot of people have a lot of different stories. And Andrew Cuomo is writing books about how to lead people, maybe to lead you to your own destruction. That would be a good book for that dope to write. So let's see, where is this hotel? It's 40, I got a little walking to do still. It's 45th and something. Let's see how people are doing on the live stream here. Comments. Hello, everyone. I got to be careful because this is a sketch neighborhood. Or, Times Square is all right, but sometimes the side streets, everything is closed until next summer, Chicky Rogue says. Rossman been doing NYC real estate podcasts. Yeah, I watch Louis Rossman occasionally. He's a very interesting guy. I appreciate what he's done with his business, this concept of fixing things rather than throwing them away and buying a whole new one. I originally became aware of him because I was looking for videos, when I was making my 3D camera, about that type of board level soldering. He's doing microscopic stuff on there to fix people's computers. And he's got a lot of good insights, and he's a real New Yorker. He's gone to court over stuff with Apple. So despite the fact that we are in totally different businesses and making totally different YouTube channels, there's a remarkable amount of crossover. And people will recall that Rossman Repair Group fixed the iPhone that the Antifa/Black Lives Matter supporters smashed about 2 weeks ago. I mean, there's just no end to the business closures. Wells Fargo seems to be doing fine. A lot of Wells Fargo's branches open all over the city, but who really needs that? I mean, you can scan your checks with the phone to deposit them. You can, pay for everything with a credit card or, I don't know. Do people ever use Apple Pay or anything like that? That seemed like a kind of a dead on arrival. Like, what did that do that anybody needed? But now they've got millimeter wave technology coming in the iPhone 12. I don't know. That's the millimeter wave. I think it's the smaller pulsed waves that are more dangerous to animals and humans. People in the comments will know more about that. Cuomo and Governor Newsom are clearing their regions to build communist mega regions. I mean, it definitely seems like this can't just be stupidity. This is deliberate. They're talking a lot about cases, okay? So they're saying there's an uptick in cases, but they're not telling us if there's more. This is what the guy on CBS said. That was so stupid. So Trump did a rally, and he was talking about how the doctors gave him an antibody test or an antigen test, some kind of test, which said that he's no longer contagious and that it's okay for him to do his daily work routine. I mean, the guy is the president. You would hope they'd... it's just an ad for a Star Trek show right there, and I was talking to Bishop Gators about Star Trek earlier today. The guy's the president, so getting him back to work quickly and safely seems to be like something you'd have a lot of doctors looking at and wanting to facilitate as quickly as possible. But this dunce on CBS, who was helping to promote Andrew Cuomo's book, he said, experts say that particular antibody test isn't accurate and they should use the PCR test. But people who watch Crowdsource the Truth and get their information from multiple sources and try to form opinions of their own based on the best facts and information they can find rather than just watching dunces on CBS, they know that Kerry Mullins, the doctor who invented that PCR test, himself said, in the context of being asked about testing for HIV, he said it's not intended to test for viruses, and it's not intended to determine if a person is sick or will become sick. But yet CBS and Andrew Cuomo, they really, really, really want you to believe in that PCR test. Here's a Sofitel. Doesn't look open to me. Lower level available. So they want you to be super confident in the PCR test, and whatever test Trump has, that's not accurate. Unless it says, he's dead or something, then I think they'd like it. This is the Overseas Press Club of America, OPO. I don't know anything about that. CQ Hotel. There's a lot of hotels around here. This one I'm looking for, the Roosevelt Hotel. It's WeWork trying to hijack my Wi-Fi again. Yeah, so I mean, again, if the broadcast cuts for any reason such as that, people will be able to see the director's cut later tonight on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I mean, look at this, everybody. It's just row after row, store after store. Things out of business. Empty restaurants. Because the hotels are empty, the restaurants in the area are empty. And the gift shops go empty. And Andrew Cuomo is choking out the most vibrant economy, one of the most vibrant economies in the world, and writing books about how to lead. I mean, that guy should be in jail. We need some serious action in terms of like lawsuits. I know someone told me that Pamela Geller had brought a lawsuit about the lockdowns. This is so complicated. And I was thinking about that. How does Cuomo have time to write that book? I'm just running a YouTube channel and trying to handle just a couple of lawsuits, and I definitely don't have time to write a book. He's supposed to be running the whole state. I mean, I guess if this is the result of his efforts, it doesn't take that much time out of your day. But you would think he'd be busy, like too busy to write a book. Now, number 23, isn't that LeBron James? Yeah, it says James right on there. So the LA Lakers, I guess, won the whatever NBA Finals, and then people in LA went nuts and wrecked stuff. That makes a lot of sense. We're getting closer to this hotel. I think it's 45 West 45th Street. And then I was going to swing by Grand Central, take a look. I think when I go down in there, it's possible that the broadcast might cut. I don't know. You know, a train station like that may have, cell phone stuff down in there to keep the signal going. Who knows? And it's been a long time since I've been to the Oyster Bar in Grand Central. But we go in there and check out what's going on in Grand Central Station. Yeah. Okay, I think it's here between Madison and Park, maybe? I guess there's not going to be too much to see other than the hotel closed, but there always does seem to be some interesting stuff going on when I hear about these stories and then come and check them out. Let's see if there's any other videos that I had recorded on the walk up. I think we got all of those. Sunset videos are nice too. You know, it's going to get real cold soon. It's going to become extremely difficult to do this. A lot of garbage, right? Yeah, you'd think that perhaps Andrew Cuomo would be more concerned with how to, control sanitation conditions in New York City, what to do about the homeless problem, what to do about the unemployment situation, instead of writing a book for his own benefit. What's he going to do with the money from that book? And who gave him the book contract? Is it that same guy who's getting all the book deals for the Clintons and the Obamas? How you doing? A lot of people looking at me. Obama is Barry. I call him B-Rock. So look at that. There's a picture of 90 shops and restaurants under one iconic roof. Well, not anymore. Should say 89 now. There it is, Roosevelt Hotel. Now, I don't really know anything about the history of this hotel. I don't know why it's called the Roosevelt Hotel. There's a Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel that I've stayed at and been to that has a really great kind of nightlife party scene going on. I think they have a bowling alley in it. Is that right? Am I remembering that right, LA people? Is there a bowling alley? Like, I think there's 1 or 2 lanes of bowling in the Roosevelt Hotel and the bar there, but this one's totally closed. I guess maybe somebody will buy it and make it into a different hotel, but it's closed. More empty restaurants as well. I mean, I wonder how much business was this shoe store doing with that hotel? People lose their luggage or go to some fancy event. Charles was telling me about some friend of his who used to travel all over the place and like not bring any suitcase and just buy all his stuff there and then leave the stuff there. Charles knows some fancy guys. That sounds expensive to me. So this is the MetLife building. At one point it was the Pan Am building, and you could actually, there was a helicopter service that would take you from the roof of that to JFK Airport. Maybe it was Idlewild then. I don't remember when they stopped that. I think actually it must have been JFK. because I'm pretty sure it was running even when I was a kid. And then there was a helicopter crash, and so they stopped it because it was too dangerous. See, there is some construction going on, which is confusing. I guess these projects must have started before the pandemic hit. And of course, you're not going to just end your construction project. Do we think there are ballots in there? In the post office thing? So there continue to be more news articles about how Joe Biden is ahead of Donald Trump. I can't believe that. I saw him today announce that he was proud to be running for Senate. So I definitely believe that Joe Biden is ahead of Donald Trump in the Senate race. But, I mean, there's gaffes and then there's signs that the guy can't think straight. So we'll see what happens there. I'm kind of like on the side. Whoa, look at that. Army dude. What's he doing there? There are regularly Army dudes stationed in Grand Central, so I guess it's not unusual for them to be there, but they've got that big Army van. I really dislike the idea of the Army being here in New York City all the time. They've been doing that since September 11th. When you go into Penn Station or Grand Central Station, the Army is there, and they have absolutely zero training in terms of interfacing with the public. I mean, we're told that the police have that training, and they're pretty bad at it. Really bad at it. And the Army is worse. There's a guy there with the mask off smoking a cigarette. He's not around anybody, but that's the dumbest of the dumb. All right, so let's check out what's going on inside Grand Central. Should be pretty busy right now, 6:30. I mean, it's kind of after rush hour, but still should be a lot of people here. I mean, this is empty as can be. There's the Apple store across the way there. I wonder if they're selling iPhone 12s. So this is closed for some reason. You can't go down that way. Everything in life now is about being restricted, told where to stand, when you can breathe, what you can do. This is cool. I mean, normally it's 7 o'clock. The notion that you'd be able to do that in Grand Central Station is so unheard of. I mean, there's just nobody in here. Now, what is this? This is like a new caution. What are they doing with that? I mean, this is surreal. To have this small number of people. So the dining concourse is down here. It's literally been years since I've been to that oyster bar. Hey, are you guys at all surprised that Grand Central Station is so empty that you can do a photo shoot right here on the stairs in the middle of the day? It's nuts, right? How long have you lived in New York?
No inglés.
No inglés, no habla inglés. ¿Dónde está vivas tú?
Santo Domingo.
Santo Domingo.
Yeah.
Turistas.
Yeah.
No, you live in New York. And so, I mean, have you ever seen Grand Central Station like this? Unbelievable.
No inglés.
Okay, gracias.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
Bye-bye. All right. So I guess now I'll be accused of something because I can speak a sentence in Spanish. This is, if it's going to happen, this is where the live stream will cut out as I go underground. I do not know if it can maintain a cellular signal, so if I cut off down here and people want to see the rest of the program, you'll be able to see it later tonight on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Huge thank you to the generous sponsors that make the show possible. I would not have been able to retain this lawyer without the support of the generous sponsors, and I want to thank everybody who supported the Counter Lawfare Fund. on crowdsourcethetruth.com. So this is the dining concourse down here. Nobody's dining. I can tell you that that is unusual. Normally there would be people, leaving work later than 5 o'clock, taking trains. This is more empty than I think you'd see it at like 11 o'clock at night on a regular night. But the Oyster Bar, as I recall, it's not down here. There it is. Michael Jordan used to have a restaurant in here as well. So people from out of town, when I've suggested this restaurant, have been kind of grossed out that it's underground in a train station. And I guess I understand that, but this is a famous restaurant. It's been here for a long time. And they have excellent food. They had for a while another one at Newark Airport. But, people who have been to New York and have been in there, that's it for that. No more Grand Central Station Oyster Bar. So that's what I mean. How many iconic New York businesses fail? Small businesses are failing. How long does this go on before the city is no longer economically viable for anybody? And Andrew Cuomo is on CBS promoting his book. Why is he even allowed to engage in commercial endeavors while he's the governor? Isn't this monetizing his political office? Can somebody please arrest this idiot? Sue him? Get him out of office? He is a disaster. Andrew Cuomo is a bigger disaster for New York City than 9/11. Exit stage right for the Oyster Bar. I'm not going to interview people in here. They want to get home. They don't want to get into conversations with me. I'm just going to get back out onto the street and head back down to the apartment to be ready for tonight's episode of More Pain with Mike Moore from True Pundit. We're going to be talking about, this Benghazi bombshell. I'm still confused because it looks to me like the exact same information he released 2 years ago, almost to the day, which I think that dude in the turban is just reading Mike's book and doing a podcast with somebody I've never seen before. And he doesn't even realize he's on Skype with Ty Wood's father. That was strange, but we'll see. Here's the Northern Food Hall, also been closed for a while. The next grand event is coming soon. Boy. Were people watching the Bishop show earlier today? Does that Grand Central Terminal logo remotely resemble the serpent eating its own tail? Keep the walk going here. See what else we see. I was talking to Shepard Ambellis earlier. He's working on his documentary, feverishly, I might add. He was all over the country. He went to Louisville. Smells quite strongly of hot dogs right there. So the taxis are back. I mean, there are certain signs of certain things being all right. Remember, there was a long time where there were no taxis here at all because there was nobody around. But again, that people who were saying, "Oh, New York is coming back to life," that's a bit deceptive. I mean, 5 taxis here. It's not the way New York is intended to work. This city can't be reduced in size and economic output by 75% and expect to continue the way it was. That's like, sort of the start of a collapse. But I tell you, it's a beautiful sky Autumn in New York is unbeatable if you haven't been here. Nothing going on at this restaurant. I mean, this is usually super busy. There's a couple people in there. There's like 5 people in there. How can this restaurant sustain with that few people eating there? And Cuomo's getting book money. It's disgraceful. So his stupid brother claims to have recovered from coronavirus. But then what was he saying? He said, you know, the BS word on CNN. Why is he allowed to do that? The two of them are nothing but thugs. The way they speak, the way they act. Chris Cuomo telling you it's illegal to look at WikiLeaks unless he tells you. Is Meet the Press? Meet the Press, I think, is NBC. That's Chuck Todd. He was telling you that social media has been weaponized against the news because, you know, independent thinkers aren't allowed to share information or their own thoughts or analysis with you. That would be bad. You have to watch CBS and NBC and CNN and Fox and billionaire-owned news outlets that are, sponsored and financed by other billionaires, because certainly they have your best interest at heart. I mean, Andrew Cuomo must have your best interest at heart if he's sitting at home writing a book rather than thinking about how can he fix the disaster that he in part created by shutting this city down way beyond what you might imagine. And now they're telling us that the tests that they're giving to the President of the United States, those aren't accurate. You've got to use the PCR test where they poke your brain and leak your cerebral spinal fluid out your nose. That happened to a lady. And they're telling you that can be trusted, but the one they gave the president cannot. So why is CBS allowed to have videos on YouTube? They're questioning public health policy. I don't get it. And, you know, the other thing to keep in mind is, by the way, a lot of the people that I'm talking about have won Emmys. Has Chris Cuomo won an Emmy? Does anybody in the chat, can somebody quickly Google that? I bet you he has. Chris Cuomo, Emmy? See, because if you lie to people and tell them that it's illegal, Operation Mockingbird, I'm glad that Beckderm mentioned that. Operation Mockingbird comes up in the Emmy lawsuit. We're going to be talking with Adam Sharp's lawyers about Operation Mockingbird. I don't want to give it away. People with Pacer accounts should be able to read the answer to their ridiculous lawsuit today. It's been filed. So I should also remind people that George's stupid brother, who tried to add my corporation to his lawsuit because the whole purpose of it is to just harass and antagonize me, they would not let him do that. Here's a restaurant out of business. They would not let him do that because I believe the court knows what he's up to. I believe they've got his number. And I don't believe he's going to be allowed to continue with his malicious activities for very much longer. The guy loves to abuse the legal system to harass people, and it is just incredibly time-consuming to deal with. His purpose in trying to bring my corporation into that lawsuit was to force me to have to pay more to lawyers. And then he, just keeps coming up with new things to try and sue me for. It's just not going to go his way. It's just more wasted time. So let's see. Did people figure out if News Emmy, Cuomo won a News Emmy? You know who's in charge of giving out the News Emmys? Oh, it's Adam Sharp, president and CEO. Sorry, he's not in charge of giving them out. He's the president and CEO of the organization that gives them out. So it's interesting that Chris Cuomo would win an Emmy for being a liar and essentially a douche. And when I speak factually about true events, he tries to strike my YouTube channel and destroy my business and then sue me. But not just sue me, strategically sue my corporation so that I can't defend myself pro se, which would have been time consuming, but free. This is how lawfare works. So people who have been sponsoring the Counter Lawfare Fund on crowdsourcethetruth.com, they've been seeing a lot of episodes, I think I've done 3 so far, of the new series that takes people deep inside Robert David Steele's anti-speech strategy. I'm not so sure it's his. It could be a playbook that he's aware of that other people are playing by as well, because there is a lot of lawfare going on. I think it's something that people want to make themselves aware of because it's a sinister tactic, and it could be used against you. That's not to say that the show offers any legal advice. I'm certainly not a lawyer, and I'm not advising that anybody represent themselves pro se in anything. I just want people to be able to learn from what happened to me, and I think it's a good opportunity for people to do that. I'm going to get back to doing some more episodes soon, but I've been super busy doing shows, dealing with lawsuits. Piccolo Cafe out. Wow, it says since 1938 for rent. I mean, this is like going to the hospital to see a friend who's dying, and you realize they're dying, and there's nothing you can do. It's really bad. Mark says they are attacking us. That's right. Mark says nobody's fighting back. Well, I mean, I'm doing the best I can. I mean, what can we do? I really want to connect with somebody who has the ability, the know-how. How do we bring some legal action against Cuomo? Get him out of office. What is the process? How is he allowed to stay there? Can't he be removed for incompetence? He said so many things on that CBS interview about, well, I can, sign a document that says people can't open their businesses, but who says people are gonna listen? It's like, Cuomo, first of all, no, you can't. You can't sign documents that tell people to close the business. When did he get elected king? He is such an objectionable individual. I gotta try to interview that dope and just ask him flat out, how the hell can you write a book about leadership when the biggest city in the state that you're the governor of is a case study in destruction of, like zero to hero? This is hero to zero. Everything's closed. Yeah, I went by this street the other day. I'm not even trying to do it, but it's just a tendency in New York. You tend to walk down the same streets. Pub closed. Toledo restaurant open. Some of these places say they're still open, but they don't appear to be. What are people thinking about all this? Watching the city burn, Brian says, like Nero. Exactly. I mean, he's got to be one of the most malicious guys ever. Goes on the news. Why is he allowed? I want to know, why is he allowed to write a book while he's the governor? And while we're in an emergency, according to him. An emergency that gives him the authority to shut down these businesses. I mean, the notion that multiple blocks would have half the businesses on them out of business in New York City. I mean, this matches what I would expect if millions of people had died, but they haven't. And now they're talking about cases, but they're not telling us how many people are tested. So if cases are going up, they said it was like it broke 1,000 cases a day for the first time since, April or something like that. But how many people did they test in April? If you test 10,000 people and 10,000 people have it, that seems like a lot of people getting it. If you test 100,000 people and 1,000 people have it, that seems like less. I mean, forgive me, I'm not a math expert. If you're on unemployment and you write a book, New York State owns your book, Chicky Rouge says. Wow. Scott, NYC, is born and raised here. Me too. Scott, what do you think? How does he have time to write a book, Karen? That's what I'm asking. And, the biggest ground floor business in the Empire State Building is closed. Now, I mean, that's not expressly because of coronavirus, but I do not think they're going to have a very easy time renting that. My opinion. Cases are just cases, Eric Viking says. I agree. What we need to know is how many of those cases are expressing themselves as illness in the people that report having virus in them. Kerry Mullins, the inventor of that PCR test, said there's a lot of different things floating around in our cells, and the purpose of the PCR test is to amplify samples by somehow multiplying it. I'm not a scientist, I don't understand how it works, but he said that if you want to, you can amplify any sample to the point where you can detect virtually anything, and that the test can be either by mistake or deliberately caused to provide false positives, which is obviously not very useful. And if perhaps you wanted to create a statistic that shows a growing number of cases, you could do that. And you want to simultaneously convince the public that whatever test it is that they're giving the President of the United States is not accurate, you could do that as well. Isn't it weird that at once they're complaining that Donald Trump has all these doctors and that they're spending all this money on treatment for Trump that the average American would never be able to get, but then when they use one of these super duper Trump tests, they say, no, that's not accurate. You need the test that you can go get for free in Queens by poking your brain. Now, I could be wrong, but that pizza place looks entirely new. Little Italy Pizza. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. But there's that. There's a lot of international businesses around here, like a lot of foreign banks and stuff. I think we've been by here with Charles, this Worry America Bank, and he commented on what a bad name that was. But this is a very Korean neighborhood. I think it's even kind of like Little Seoul or something like that. They've got a lot of Korean restaurants around. GNC, we've spoken about that being out.
Go ahead, take my picture. I'm like a virgin. I'm like a virgin.
It's ready for Halloween. Now there's Love Korean Barbecue over there. Looks like they're ready to party. CVS and Walgreens have merged as far as I know. Was it CVS? Oh no, Dwayne Reed and Walgreens merged. So maybe Dwayne Reed is gone and they need fewer stores. Here's Little Korea. Let's walk through here and see what's going on. This is another genius leadership move by Andrew Cuomo. They've decided that as long as you're sitting outside in the cold, in a less comfortable, less likely to make you want to go spend money at a restaurant environment that's outside, then you can enclose it and restrict the airflow so that you're mitigating any perceived benefit of being outside and having a lot of airflow to prevent the virus or whatever. Just, I mean, what they are recommending, suggesting, and mandating cannot be based on science because it just defies logic. You don't need to be a scientist to know. I will admit it creates an interesting feel down here. I mean, if they wanted to do this just to have outdoor dining and create like a livelier street environment, if we weren't eating among rat-infested garbage, I mean, that might be a good idea. Instead of writing a damn book, figure out how we can modernize New York City's garbage collection system. Elon Musk is trying to land on Mars. There's got to be a better way to handle garbage on the street of New York City, rather than leaving it here open while people are eating right there. Nothing could possibly go wrong with that. Rats don't breed disease, right? Oh, am I questioning public health policy? I saw a red Jason Goodman there. What if everyone who voted for a politician party did a follow-up on the promise they made before the election and contact the ones? That's a complicated question, Newbing. I'm not sure I'm getting it. Salty Sphinx says they're remaking New York City in the model they wanted to, the New World Order. Yeah, I liked it the old way. This is not good. So this is a very popular neighborhood for tourists, for people who live in New York City who like Korean food. And then there's a lot of Korean businesses too, like cosmetics businesses and, I used to have an eyeglass place over here that was a Korean doctor, but they moved. I guess the rent got too high because all the restaurants and stuff. I wonder, yeah, I mean, it's just difficult for everybody right now because look at that. That looks like another closed hotel, doesn't it? And by the way, you know, most of these businesses have taken the wood down, or maybe the owners of the buildings have taken the wood down because the places are closed and have moved out. But perhaps there'll be another round of smashing stuff after Trump wins. Boy, who would have ever thought it would come to this? That's the Nomad Tower, north of Madison. That actually is a bit of a strange thing because Madison runs north and south, so I think it's just kind of a cool name that like real estate brokers came up with because you can't, I don't know, can you be north of Madison or I guess on the north end of Madison? People can research that and maybe learn more about how it came about. 56% of Americans feel they are better now than 4 years ago, says James E. Well, I mean, that's an interesting and complicated question. I think the people whose businesses in New York City have closed. I mean, the issue is, were it not for deliberate policies enacted by Andrew Cuomo and Bill de Blasio, I don't think these businesses needed to close. The closure of these businesses, I don't think, can be directly correlated to necessarily saving anybody's life. I mean, these businesses are closed. How did that affect? I mean, they're going to say, oh, well, the lockdown helped everybody. I bet you can't make that determination because they locked everything down when they still had no idea or claimed to have no idea how dangerous the virus was, how contagious it was. I mean, there's just so many businesses out. When will we know if it's more than 50%? And what happens when it becomes 60% and 70% and then just no businesses? The city will become like uninhabitable. I don't even remember what this was. It's rare, but there are some people walking around without masks. And even people with the masks are walking around with the masks down. I mean, obviously, they're uncomfortable. People got to listen to their bodies. If you're feeling uncomfortable, that's Probably because it's not helping you. Somebody sent me a thing that was saying that something about analyzing the percentage of people who actually get coronavirus who were wearing masks. But that seems like a hard thing to track because to me it looks like virtually everybody is wearing a mask. Let's see what how many people are at this restaurant here. This is like a hotel with a pretty fancy restaurant in it. There's a few. Just a few. And if you take a look in there, that is a giant restaurant. And how long can the owners of it be enthusiastic about stocking it with food and paying the staff when so few people are eating there? The answer is not that long. Just saw somebody said we are at war. Yeah. And I mean, it's feeling right now like we're kind of losing. Oh. Look at all that. So the other thing that's going to start happening is that, it's going to be cold, and people who are sleeping at night on the street are in a much more dangerous situation. So, I mean, things like the subway are going to become totally unsafe, which they already are. It's pretty unsafe to be around even right now on such an empty street. But what time is it here? Is it even 7 o'clock yet? Okay, 7:07. So this is not late, and nobody is out. And none of these businesses are open. This place is closed. Two Beans out of business. I may be repeating, locations that people have seen before, but it's this is what we're doing here.
My friend is calling me now.
McDonald's is still cooking.
Let me take this stuff.
I mean, maybe these restaurants are delivering to people. That looks closed. Two people in the nail place. Usually those nail places are filled. There used to be a big one on 23rd Street near my apartment that was super full all the time. Here's Trump with Batman, Trump Air. They should make people walk around breathing Trump air rather than the mask. You could put Trump antibodies in a canned air, and there you go. People are saying New York looks like downtown Portland. Maybe. I haven't been to Portland. That place is for rent up there. I got an email from a viewer uptown who owns a micro brew, like a bar that specializes in microbrew beers, and there was some sort of Black Trans Lives Matters demonstration in front of the beer place, and I think the beer place was pro-Trump, and the Black Lives Matter protest was not. So people are sending me stuff, from all over the place. Oh, I think we're walking right by Rossman Repair, because I do believe the Wilson is right across the street from it. Did this used to be Hot Lights? What is this right here? I don't remember. I haven't rented any lights in a long time. It's further downtown. That dude's having a nice time counting. So we're getting close to the end of the stream here. I'm going to head back to the apartment, get ready for tonight's episode of More Pain featuring True Pundit editor Mike Moore. We're going to be talking about this. Here's Rossman Repair Group. We're going to be talking about this alleged Benghazi bombshell. Is it a bombshell or is it another distraction? Because it feels to me like the exact same information that Mike Moore broke in his book, How We Dismantled the FBI in Our Pajamas, which I believe came out like October 20th or October 28th, 2018. So this guy with the turban, what's his name? Alan. This guy's trying to attract my attention in a way that I don't want to give it to him. But I mean, that guy comes out of nowhere, some falconer in his pajamas. Oh, maybe he's dismantling the FBI in the pajamas. That could be a hint. How he dismantled the FBI's in the pajamas and a turbine. That guy. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. You know, people hear information that kind of comports with what they want to be true, so they presume that it must be true. I meant to call Charlie Strange, the father of Army Ranger Michael Strange, who was killed in the Extortion 17 crash, and ask him what he thought about this thing, this bombshell, alleged bombshell. I haven't had a chance to reach Charlie yet, but people should tune in to More Pain on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. In just under an hour, that'll be on, so people can check that out. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Let's see if there's any last comments here before who's this guy following me? He could be up to no good. So let's see. Buttered spaghetti people are talking about. Okay. Something to eat. Yeah, people need to eat. Definitely grab a bite. And all right, that'll be it, everybody. I'll be back in just a little while with Mike Moore on More Pain.